So now we'll move on to our vendor presentation tonight, and we're delighted to have the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad here with us. I used to live in Albuquerque, and for I think 2 or 3 years I had a season ticket for the parlor car up there and really took advantage of it. It was a lot of fun back there. So I'm going to hand it over now to Steve Butler and Scott Gibbs, and I think, Pete, you're going to be running the PowerPoint for these guys.
Thank you, Robin. It's our pleasure this month to welcome Scott Gibbs and Stephen Butler to Off the Beaten Track, who will tell us about the Cumbres and Toltec. Just a brief introduction to both gentlemen. Scott retired from Los Alamos National Laboratories in 2014, then again in 2018. He is the president of the Durango Railroad Historical Society. He was appointed as one of the 2 Colorado commissioners for the Cumbres and Toltec by Governor Polis in 2021. He served as president of the railroad from June 2021 until October 2023. Stephen Butler, who will be our presenter today, started his career in Wisconsin on his family's own railroad, the Kettle Moraine Railway. He has been in the tourist railroad industry for 32 years. Most recently, he owned a contracting company, the Morton Locomotive and Machine, and he is the current general manager of the Cumbres and Toltec Railway. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stephen.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Butler, the new general manager for Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. So Cumbres and Toltec is owned by the states of Colorado and New Mexico. It was purchased by them around 1970. The Cumbres and Toltec is run by the commission, which is 2 representatives from each state, appointed by the governors. The commission oversees the railroad with its financial well-being, the historic preservation of the railroad, and how the railroad helps the economy of the communities that it goes through and the surrounding area. The commission owns the operating company, which is the Cumbres and Toltec Operating LLC, and that is who everyone here at the railroad works for. And the locomotives here at the Cumbres and Toltec, we have 1 K27 locomotive, the 463 in service. We have 4 K36s, the 484, 487, 488, 489. 49 is presently an oil burning locomotive. The 487 is getting converted to an oil burning locomotive. We have locomotive 492, which we have just started to return to service. It is one of our K37s. Our goal is to try to maintain at least one of each class of locomotives as coal burners. We also have on loan from the Durango Railway Historical Society, locomotive 315, and we have locomotive 168. So locomotive 487 over the last year has been getting a fairly extensive overhaul. It has a brand new tender tank that has been installed, fabricated over in Farmington, New Mexico. The oil tank has been fitted into the coal bunker. The locomotive has gotten extensive firebox repairs. Most of the bottom end of the interior of the firebox has been replaced, with a couple of repairs to the exterior. Locomotive 488 is also receiving a new tender tank. We're hoping this year that each of the locomotives will be coming out of the shops with fresh paint jobs. They'll all be coming out of the shop lettered Cumbres and Toltec. On to locomotive 492. Work has started doing the initial evaluation of the locomotive. It was moved off of its disconnected track this fall and moved into the shop. The cab has been removed. The locomotive is being prepared to do a hydro test on it before cutting the tubes out of it. The appliances from the locomotive have been removed and sent out for overhaul. We've ordered a brand new set of main rods, side rods, and valve gear for this locomotive because so many of them have been borrowed over the years to keep some of the other locomotives in service. We've also ordered a second set of rods for one of the K37s. The nice thing about these locomotives is both the K36s and K37s have virtually identical running gear with a lot of interchangeable parts. One of our big announcements this fall is we went up to Alaska and inspected the White Pass and Ukon number 114, and we've just made the purchase of it. Our goal is to use it for maintenance way service, if we need to rescue a train, heavy work train service. We have 2 GE center cabs that came from the Wahoo Railway in service, but are limited as to what we can do on the railroad with them. The Wahoo center cabs are great for little duties, but don't have the capacity we need for doing some of our heavier work trains, or if we need to rescue a train. Our track is getting an extensive work. We've purchased a lot of new equipment in the last couple of years, including a brand new excavator with numerous attachments, including a masticator, which will grind up tree and vegetations. We have acquired a brand new backhoe with a tamper attachment so that it can do spot tamping and switches. We've are just about ready to receive a rebuilt ballast regulator that is on its way shortly to replace our old one. It was cut down from a standard gauge regulator to make it into a narrow gauge one. Our tamper is getting ready to go out this winter for an overhaul. It goes back to, I believe, Pennsylvania to rebuild shop. And when it's done, it will come back here in the middle of spring. So here's our tamper in service. It takes and has a vibrating shovels on it that basically shoves the ballast underneath the tie to help support the track. It is set up so that it can lift the track and level it and align it. And when it comes back, it will be basically as good as new. This is our old ballast regulator. They are used to spread the ballast out amongst the ties for tamping. You can pull ballast up out of the ditch up back towards the track. There is a plow to kind of spread it on top of the track, as well as a broom to clean up the ties and track afterwards. This year has been a challenging year for us for water. We had a good spring with lots of runoff, but this summer did not get nearly as much rain as we had hoped to. So the water tank at Sublet ran dry on the spring. And so this fall we hauled 29 truckloads of water to Sublet in a 4,000 gallon tank. And the water was either being hauled from Antonito or Osier. Sometimes we were doing multiple trips in one day as we were running some specials and needed extra water. The water tank at Los Pinos was used quite a bit this year. The spring feeding the tank at Cumbres was on the drier side and it couldn't keep up with our demands. And so we had to get water at Los Pinos on the way back often. Cresco, its spring was dry and we were having to take tank trucks up there with water as needed. At one point this summer, New Mexico water engineer came and shut off the water from the river to our cistern, and there was issues with water usage downstream on our ditch, and so we had to put a dam in to prevent water going downstream and only using the water for our own use. But that has been resolved, and we are actually in the process of putting in some new head gates this coming year to help alleviate that and not have to demand or worry about a earthen dam in our ditch. The lava water tank is being restored to service. This fall it got a new roof. The tank was cleaned out and several hundred pounds of pigeon droppings were removed. The water to that will be hauled there on a tank car, so we can keep the tank available for when the 315 or 168 run, or if we need water for fire service or one of the other locomotives. Coal this year has been a significant problem. Our main mine at Hesperus, Colorado ran into problems, and we were having trouble getting coal from them. They also had a change of ownership, and the coal that they were mining was going to their own use, and they did not have enough to supply us. So we had to switch to a new mine, the West Elk mine, which is near Somerset, which is also up near Delta, Colorado. That coal was coming in, and was a little more expensive with the trucking. At one point this fall, our coal supply got down to less than a tender full for both ends of the railroad. And by the end of that day, we were down to almost no coal on either end of the railroad. And luckily, we got 2 truckloads in that night to be able to operate the next day. Our passenger car fleet this past winter all got repainted. Each car ran through the shop. We got the exterior scraped, sanded, a fresh coat of paint put on, and fresh lettering. So this season, the entire train set was looking exceptionally well. We are getting ready to build 2 more coaches to meet with our demands of passengers. Our historic wood cars are going to go through the shop this spring and get a new paint job. The paint job on them, unfortunately, did not hold up over the last couple of years due to the weather conditions and ultraviolet. The cars will be stored after this in our new car storage facility that's being erected over in Antonito. Each year, our cars go through the shop and get an annual inspection, which includes pulling them up off their trucks, going through the air brakes, inspecting the running gear. Interiors get worked on, stuff gets replaced that's damaged or broken. Paycar F is making progress. The sidings on the car, it has been moved into our new car restoration shop building in Antonito, but unfortunately, they are not done with it, so limited work is being done. Insulation is supposed to go in this week, electricity is going in, and then we need to get the heat into it. Here you can see Paycar F. On the left-hand slide, you can see how much of the exterior framing was replaced in the car. All the bright colored wood is the new replacement wood, including some extensive sill work. The right-hand slide, the new siding is on and it's waiting for paint. Once we get some heat in the building and we can keep the temperature steady, they can start painting the car. And hopefully within the next year or so, we can get this car in service with our other historic cars.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. That's great. Let me just take a look at the chat box and field some questions for you. I have a question to lead off, and that is, what percent of your expenses are covered by subsidies from the states versus actual income from operations?
A lot of our projects that we do are covered by monies either coming from states of Colorado or New Mexico. Some of our projects are covered by some federal grants. The purchase of the new diesel is an example that's coming through a federal grant program, as well as the rebuild of the tamper. Our operating revenue covers most of our daily operating expenses, and I don't have the exact numbers of how the breakdown is.
And Robin Peel asks, will the White Pass loco stay in the White Pass livery?
No, we will be repainted. We have not decided what paint scheme we're going to go with yet on it. I know on the internet there's a lot of great debate as to what colors we should paint it. And
I'll forgive you for that one, because I think the boat, whatever you do, will be lovely. So I'll forgive you for that one. And I just wanted to say that last time I rode the Cumbres and Toltec, I was amazed at how good the track was. You put so much money into the condition of the permanent way. It's absolutely outstanding. It's really in good condition.
Yes, it is amazing from back even in the early 2000s to now, just the quality of the track work. I went out over it this fall with our roadmaster, and he was explaining to me all the different work we've done over the last 15 years, and just how many ties have gone in, how much rail's been replaced, how much track has actually been moved over on some of the curves to give it a little more shoulder. They've done blasting on some of the rocks along the way just to get a little more clearance. So it's very impressive, especially when you see it from the level of a speeder versus the level of a train.